The full Emma Rodriguez stared at the projection screen in disbelief, her coffee mug frozen halfway to her lips. There, displayed in pristine detail before Novatech's board of directors, was her AI algorithm. 18 months of sleepless nights, countless iterations, her masterpiece, being presented by Marcus Chen as his own creation. As you can see, gentlemen, Marcus's smooth voice filled the conference room. My predictive modeling system will revolutionize how we approach data analytics. My predictive modeling system. The words echoed in Emma's mind as she watched through the glass partition. She'd trusted Marcus completely. He'd been her mentor since she'd joined Novatech fresh from MIT, guiding her through corporate politics, advocating for her promotions. She'd shared every breakthrough with him, believing he was grooming her for greatness. The boardroom erupted in applause. Through the glass, she saw them shaking Marcus's hand, saw the gleam of triumph in his eyes as he accepted their congratulations. The Japanese investors were already reaching for contracts. This algorithm would secure the $100 million buyout Novatech desperately needed. Emma's hands trembled as she set down her mug. She had the original code, the development logs, timestamps proving everything. Marcus had been clever, though. He'd insisted she work on a separate server for security reasons, had her sign NDAs that, she now realized, might have been doctored. She waited until the meeting ended, until the investors filed out and Marcus emerged, his face glowing with success. We need to talk, she said quietly. Stepping into his path, his expression shifted for just a moment, a flicker of something cold, before his mentorly smile returned. Emma, did you see? They loved it. We did it! Her voice came out steadier than she felt. That's my work, Marcus. Every line of code, every innovation. You know that. He guided her into his office, closing the door with deliberate calm. The moment it clicked shut, his facade dropped entirely. Your work? He laughed, but there was no warmth in it. You developed it on company time, using company resources under my supervision. Everything you've done here belongs to Novatech. Check your employment contract. That's not, you can't just... Emma's mind raced. I have proof. Development logs. Emails where you asked me to explain the methodology. Emails from your company account. Logs on servers I administrate. Marcus moved to his desk, his movements predatory. I appreciate your contributions, Emma, but I think you're confused about your role here. You're a junior developer. I'm the CTO. The board knows who really drives innovation at this company. I'll go to them myself. Tell them the truth. His fingers flew across his keyboard. Actually, that won't be necessary. Security will be here in 5 minutes to escort you out. What? I've just filed a report about your attempts to steal proprietary code. The security logs show you accessing the algorithm database after hours, downloading files to unauthorized devices. He turned his monitor toward her. There it was. Fabricated evidence of her supposed corporate espionage. Really disappointing, Emma. I expected better from you. The door opened. 2 security guards entered, their faces professionally blank. Miss Rodriguez? One said. Please come with us. As they escorted her out, Emma caught one last glimpse of Marcus through his office window. He was already on the phone, probably spinning his version of events. By tomorrow, every tech company in the city would know her name, and not in a good way. The devil's bargain. The eviction notice trembled in Emma's hands as she sat on her cramped studio apartment floor, surrounded by rejection emails. 3 months since Marcus had destroyed her life and she'd burned through her savings. Every tech company in Silicon Valley had blacklisted her. The few interviews she'd managed to secure ended the moment they checked her references. Her laptop chimed. Another rejection, probably. But the sender made her pause. Blackwood Enterprises, Ms. Rodriguez, I have a proposition that may interest you. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Ritz-Carlton Penthouse Suite. D. Blackwood. Emma's blood ran cold. Damian Blackwood, the corporate reaper, tech media called him. He specialized in buying failing companies, stripping them down, and selling the pieces. His reputation for ruthlessness was legendary. Why would he contact her? Against her better judgment, she went. The penthouse suite was intimidatingly luxurious. Damian Blackwood stood by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, his silhouette sharp against the afternoon sun. When he turned, Emma was struck by his presence, not conventionally handsome but magnetic in a dangerous way. His dark eyes assessed her with surgical precision. "Emma Rodriguez," he said, his voice low and controlled. "The genius who developed the algorithm that saved Novatech. Or should I say the fool who handed it to Marcus Chen?" Heat flooded her face. "If you brought me here to mock me, I brought you here because I need you." He moved to his desk, each step measured. "I recently acquired Prometheus Industries. Are you familiar with it?" She was. Once a promising AI startup, now a burning money pit. That company is beyond salvaging. Their entire codebase is corrupted. Their client contracts are in breach, which is why I need someone who can perform miracles. He slid a contract across the desk. 1 year. You work exclusively for me. You report directly to me. You save Prometheus or you die trying. Emma scanned the document, her eyes widening at the terms. The hours were inhuman, 6 days a week minimum, on call constantly. The performance metrics were impossible. The penalties for breach were draconian, but the compensation? "This is indentured servitude," she whispered. "This is opportunity." His eyes never left hers. "You have 48 hours left before eviction. Your credit cards are maxed. Your industry reputation is destroyed. I'm offering you a chance to rebuild both Prometheus and yourself." "Why me?" "You could hire any developer. Because you're brilliant, desperate, and have nothing left to lose. That makes you exactly what I need." He leaned back. "Also, I despise Marcus Chen. Helping you is an added bonus." Emma's hands shook as she reached for the pen. Everything about this screamed danger. Damian Blackwood was known for chewing up employees and spitting them out. But what choice did she have? "If I do this," she said slowly, "I need access to everything. No restrictions on the code base, full authority over the development team. You'll have whatever you need. But understand this, failure isn't an option. I don't invest in lost causes, and I don't forgive disappointments." The pen felt heavy in her hand. 1 year. She could survive anything for 1 year. She signed. Damian's smile was sharp as a blade. "Welcome to hell, Ms. Rodriguez. We start Monday." As Emma left the hotel, contract clutched in her hand, she wondered if she'd just made a deal with the devil himself. The sun was setting over Silicon Valley, painting the sky blood red. Somewhere in those glittering towers, Marcus Chen was probably celebrating another stolen success. But Emma Rodriguez wasn't the same naive developer he'd betrayed. She'd lost everything once. She had nothing left to fear. Monday couldn't come fast enough. Behind enemy lines, the Prometheus Industries building looked like a morgue at 5 a.m. Monday morning. Emma stood in the empty lobby, her new security badge heavy in her hand. She'd expected to start at 9 like a normal person, but Damian's text had been clear. "Main conference room. 5 sharp. Don't be late." She found him already there, 3 monitors glowing before him, coffee black as midnight at his elbow. He didn't look up when she entered. "The entire Prometheus codebase is on that workstation," he said without preamble. "You have 6 weeks to deliver a working prototype for our biggest client, Meridian Financial. They're already halfway out the door." Emma sank into the chair, pulling up the code. 5 minutes in, she understood why Prometheus was failing. It wasn't just corrupted. It was a Frankenstein's monster of incompatible systems held together by digital duct tape. "This is impossible," she breathed. "The architecture is fundamentally flawed. We'd need to rebuild from scratch, then rebuild it." His tone brooked no argument. "I didn't hire you for excuses. The first week was brutal." Damian was everywhere and nowhere, appearing silently behind her to demand progress reports, sending cryptic emails at 3 a.m., scheduling meetings that stretched past midnight. He never praised, rarely acknowledged effort, only results. Emma felt like a mouse being stalked by a particularly patient cat. By week 3, she'd established a rhythm. Arrive before dawn, code until her eyes burned, survive Damian's interrogations, collapse at home, repeat. The other employees avoided her, whispering about Blackwood's new pet project. She ate alone, worked alone, existed in a bubble of impossible expectations. Then came the night everything changed. It was 2 a.m., and Emma was deep in debugging when she heard the crash. She found Damian in his office, a crystal tumbler shattered against the wall, amber liquid dripping down expensive wallpaper. He stood at his window, shoulders rigid with tension. "Sir," she ventured, Get out, Rodriguez. But something in his voice, a rawness she'd never heard, made her step inside instead. What happened? For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, today's date, October 15th. Ring any bells? She shook her head. 3 years ago today, my business partner of a decade stole everything. Our clients, our technology, half my employees, left me with debts and lawsuits while he started a competitor with my own innovations. His laugh was bitter. Trust is a luxury I can no longer afford. Emma moved closer, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not the corporate predator, but a man nursing wounds that hadn't healed. Is that why you're so... She searched for words that wouldn't offend. Cold. Demanding? Inhuman? He turned and she saw pain flicker in his eyes before the mask slammed back down. Get back to work, Rodriguez. That prototype won't code itself, but something had shifted. Emma returned to her workstation with new understanding. Damian Blackwood wasn't just difficult, he was armor-plated against betrayal. Every impossible demand, every cold assessment, was a wall against being hurt again. She coded until dawn, but her mind kept wandering to the man upstairs, alone with his ghosts and shattered crystal. The next morning, she found coffee on her desk. Good coffee, not the break room swill. No note, but she knew. It was the closest to kindness Damian Blackwood could manage. Emma smiled and got back to work. Maybe hell had its moments of grace after all. Walls crumbling down, 6 weeks later, Emma stood before Meridian Financial's board, Damian a silent shadow beside her. The prototype she'd built from Prometheus's ashes hummed on the screen, elegant, powerful, revolutionary. As she walked through the demonstration, she felt Damian's presence like electricity, his rare nod of approval worth more than any praise. Extraordinary, Meridian's CEO breathed. This exceeds every expectation. Where did you find her, Blackwood? I have my sources, Damian replied smoothly, but Emma caught the ghost of pride in his voice. The contract was signed within the hour. As they rode the elevator down, Damian turned to her. Dinner, tonight. We're celebrating. It wasn't a request, but for once, Emma didn't mind his commanding tone. The restaurant he chose was intimate and expensive. Nothing like the conference room meals she'd grown accustomed to. Without the office hierarchy between them, conversation flowed surprisingly easy. Damian, she discovered, had a dry wit that emerged after his second glass of wine. He actually laughed when she told him about her college coding disasters. You tried to hack the dean's computer to change your roommate's grades? She was going to lose her scholarship over one bad test. Besides, I almost succeeded, Emma grinned at the memory. Would have if campus security hadn't upgraded their firewall that week. Remind me to never get on your bad side. But his smile was warm, transforming his usually sharp features. As weeks turned into months, these moments multiplied. Late nights debugging became impromptu strategy sessions over Chinese takeout. Damian started explaining his vision for Prometheus, not just profit, but innovation that mattered. Emma found herself fighting not just for her job, but for their shared dream. The shift happened gradually. Damian's office door, once firmly closed, stayed open when she was around. He started asking her opinion on acquisitions, valuing her input beyond coding. When a rival company tried to poach her, he didn't threaten or manipulate, he simply asked her to stay. Why? Emma challenged. My contract doesn't expire for 4 more months. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Because Prometheus isn't the same without you. I'm not the same without you. The admission hung between them, dangerous and thrilling. Everything came to a head during a system crash that threatened their biggest product launch. They worked 36 hours straight, Damian rolling up his sleeves to code alongside her, something he hadn't done in years. At hour 32, exhausted and punch-drunk, Emma made a joke that sent them both into hysterical laughter. When they finally stopped, they were standing too close. Emma could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could feel the warmth radiating from him. The air crackled with possibility. Emma, he said softly, her name a question and answer all at once. She should have stepped back, should have remembered he was her boss, that she'd sworn off trusting powerful men. that this could destroy everything they'd built. Instead, she rose on her tiptoes and kissed him. For a heartbeat, Damien froze. Then his arms came around her, pulling her against him like he'd been wanting to do this for months. The kiss was desperate and tender and absolutely perfect. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back. "I shouldn't have," Emma started. "Don't." Damien cupped her face gently. "Don't apologize." "Not for this. What happens now?" "I don't know." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "I've spent 3 years making sure no one could get close enough to hurt me again. Then you walked in and demolished every defense I had." "Damien?" "I'm terrified," he admitted. "But I'm more terrified of losing you." Emma's heart raced. She was standing at another crossroads, facing another powerful man asking for her trust. But Damien had never lied to her, never stolen from her, never pretended to be anything but what he was. "We take it slow," she said finally. "Figure it out as we go." "I can work with that." His smile was radiant. "But first we should probably fix the system crash." She laughed, tension breaking. "You really know how to sweet-talk a girl." As they returned to debugging, something fundamental had changed. The walls between them hadn't just cracked, they'd crumbled entirely. And in their place, something precious and fragile and absolutely worth protecting began to grow. Rising from ashes, the email arrived on a Tuesday morning, 8 months into Emma's contract. Marcus Chen's name in her inbox made her blood run cold. "Emma, I hear you've been doing exceptional work at Prometheus. Novatech has an opportunity that would triple your current compensation. Let's discuss your future." "Marcus." She stared at the screen, rage and disbelief warring in her chest. After everything he'd done, he had the audacity to try recruiting her? Planning your escape already? Damien's voice came from behind her. He'd seen the sender's name on her screen, and his expression was carefully neutral. Too neutral. "He wants to hire me back." Emma turned to face him. "After destroying my career, he wants to hire me back." "I see." Damien moved to his window, his defensive posture achingly familiar. "It's a logical move. Prometheus's success hasn't gone unnoticed. He needs what you can..." "Stop." Emma crossed to him, placing her hand on his arm. "I'm not going anywhere. Your contract expires in 4 months. You'd be foolish not to consider..." "Damien, look at me." She waited until his eyes met hers. "Do you really think I'd go back to the man who betrayed me? Who tried to destroy everything I'd worked for? People do desperate things for career advancement. Is that what you think this is?" She gestured between them. "Career advancement?" The vulnerability in his eyes nearly broke her. 3 years of betrayal had taught him to expect the worst, to armor himself against inevitable disappointment. But Emma wasn't his ex-partner. She wasn't another corporate climber using him as a stepping stone. "Come with me," she said suddenly. "Where?" "To show Marcus Chen exactly what I think of his offer." An hour later, they sat in Novatech's gleaming conference room. Marcus entered with his practiced smile, faltering slightly when he saw Damien. "Blackwood, I didn't realize you'd be joining us." "I go where my interests lie," Damien replied coolly. Marcus recovered quickly, launching into his pitch. Novatech's struggles without Emma's innovation, their need for her vision, the generous compensation package. He painted himself as the magnanimous mentor, willing to forgive her misunderstanding about the algorithm. Emma let him finish. Then she smiled. "You know what's interesting, Marcus? When you destroyed my reputation, I thought my career was over. When you stole my work, I thought I'd never create anything meaningful again." She pulled out her tablet, displaying Prometheus's latest metrics. "But in 8 months, I've built something you could never steal. Not just code, but a company worth believing in. A partner who values innovation over ego." "Emma, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable, which is why I recorded this entire conversation." She held up her phone, "Including the part where you admitted to our misunderstanding about the algorithm." "My lawyer will find that fascinating." Marcus's face went pale. I can and I will, unless you do 2 things. First, you'll issue a public statement crediting me as the sole developer of the Novatech algorithm. Second, you'll resign. Quietly. This is blackmail." "No," Damien interjected, his voice deadly calm. "This is justice." "Something Emma's far too generous to give you." They left Marcus sputtering in his conference room. In the elevator, Emma's hands shook with adrenaline and vindication. "You were magnificent," Damien murmured, pulling her close. "I learned from the best." She looked up at him. "Thank you for being there." "Emma." He seemed to struggle with words. "Your contract expires soon." "We need to discuss—" "No, we don't." She pulled the contract from her bag and before his stunned eyes tore it in half. "I don't need a contract to stay." "Then what do you need?" "A partnership. Real equity in Prometheus. A voice in where we go next." She took a breath. "And you, not as my boss, but as my partner. In everything." Damien stared at the torn contract, then at her. For the first time since she'd known him, he looked completely undone. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He kissed her then, right there in the Novatech elevator, and Emma knew she'd found something worth more than any algorithm or career success. She'd found trust, partnership, and love in the most unlikely place, with the man who'd once seemed cold as winter but had become her warmth. 6 months later, as they stood together at Prometheus's IPO celebration, Emma caught sight of the business news ticker. Marcus Chen steps down from Novatech amid algorithm controversy. "No regrets?" Damien asked, following her gaze. "None," Emma said, raising her champagne glass. "To new beginnings." "To us," he corrected, and in his smile she saw their whole future, brilliant, challenging, and absolutely worth every risk. They'd both been betrayed, broken, and rebuilt. But together, they'd created something unbreakable, not just a company or a relationship, but a life built on trust, respect, and the kind of love that turned contracts into promises and cold hearts into warm homes.